Come, gathering close for a tale most absurd. Let me tell you what happened, you won't believe what occurred. A fur so electrified, wild and unplanned, you think he tangled himself in a high voltage band. I'm building a diorama quite tiny in size, but one part of this build will open your eyes. So watch every moment as mischief appear. You will know the shot where I burst into laughter and questioned my career. And now that you've glimpsed just a hint of the mess, it's time for the journey in all of its stress. The snow and the glue and the fur gone astray, the tree made of wire in a most Grinchly way. So settle in for the tale to commence, where tiny disasters all starts to make sense. First come the Grinch, white primed and quite bare, a sneer on his face and no fuss anywhere. But fur he would need, so I pounded a while, and a thought sprouted up with a sinister smile. Static grass, yes indeed, that will do just fine. 6mm long? Why, that's practically divine. So I painted the dark green where his furs ought to be, covered each patch with white glue carefully. If you've ever tried static grass for anything not terrain, tell me in the comments, I'd love to find someone who shares this strange brain. The applicator crackled, grass danced through the breeze, landing upright like soldiers in tiny green seas. But when it all dried and I looked at my brute, he seemed to have leaped in an outlet chute. Hair standing up like he challenged a storm, a fuzzy green hedgehog in vaguely man form. And since we're all here, tell me, do you prefer this wild static hairstyle or tidier fur? Should the Grinch stay electric or neat as a pin? Drop your thoughts below, let the voting begin. Crimson strokes layered nice and neat, white trim shaded grey looking sharp and sweet. Highlights dry brush to puffy just so. A sneaky Santa ready to steal the show. Hints of green peeked where the sleeves met the cuff. The grin on his face said, I've had enough. Every tiny detail made him gleam with glee. A Grinch in disguise for all to see. The base came next, built with XPS foam, a cold and hard staircase to leave him safely home. I carved the stone with knives, gave each edge some grit, then plastered it thick, rough and chunky. Perfect fit. If you've built rocky stairways or stone paths before, share your secrets with me, I'm hungry for more. There's always a trick in a maker's toolbox, and your wisdom might help me in my future box rocks. Once dry, I carved more, textures bold and bright. Washed it black, browns and grey until it looked right. A dry brush of white made the rocks catch the light, a mountaintop ready for frost, wind and night. To build me a tree for this Grinch-laden scene, I started with one simple stick, long and clean. I trimmed it to size with a measure so neat, then brushed it with steel till it's roughened like peat. The fibers tore loose, leaving grooves in the grain, a bark-textured surface in dark woody stain. While that dried in peace, I began with the limbs. Steel wires I twisted in spindly, thin rims. The lower ones longer, the upper ones light, like branches that climb toward the cold winter light. I drilled into the trunk, making holes here and there, then fitted each wire in its new wooden lair. So on went the glue in a paintbrushing sweep, then flocking mixed with statics I sprinkled on deep. The green caught the branches in clumps soft and fine, a hint of the needles that someday would shine. But more was required to puff it with grace, the long static fibers that build up its face. So hairspray became my quick drying ally. letting grass cling as it layered in high. Day after day, with a spray and a toss, the wire turned into woodland with blanket-like moss. Slowly the branches grew fuller to see. The wire and glue blossomed, a true Christmas tree. Now tell me, dear viewer, how you would proceed. Would you twist wire branches from patience and need? Or would you prefer a pre-made little tree, bought cheaply and quickly for crafting spree? But before any sparkles and baubles could glow, I first had to anchor the tree in its snow. I marked out the spot where the trunk ought to stand, then pressed it down firmly into mountain land. But bare painted plaster is no place for sheer, so the snowfall began with a bucket of smear. With snow paint I covered each walkway and ridge, from the rocky old stair to the slope near the bridge. I dabbed and I dragged till the texture felt right, a wintry blanket in shimmering white. Then fake snow for texture to sprinkle or two, to mimic the powder the cold mountains knew. And once it had dried in a frosty good way, the stage for the tree was prepped for display. At last came the part that I wanted the most, the trimming, the decking, the shimmering boast. I started with gold balls on a wire so grand, all looped around the branches by carefully made hands. They curled through the needles in spirals so tight, a festive green river of wintertime light. Then onwards to ornaments, bright little pearls, a box full of colors like treasures for squirrels. I wired each bauble to dangle just so, a handmade hook string for the branches to show. One by one up they went to their hang from a limb, some polished and perfect, some wobbling and slim. But the Grinch had been busy, of that I was sure, for one side looked wrecked in a style most obscure. The branches were bent in a mischievous twist, as if Grinch's green fingers has clutched them in fist. And scattered below in the cold winter snow lay ornaments fallen from chaos' first blow. A red one half buried, a white star astray, a silver one rolling a footstep away. The scene looked disorderly, crooked and true, exactly what Grinches are destined to do. So bit by bit, bauble by bauble, it grew, a tree full of mischief in greens, red and blue. And though half was tidy and half was destroyed, it perfectly matched the old Grinches annoyed. And ornaments, ornaments, red ones and blue. Which one will you hang, the bold or the new? Tell me the shades you'd hang high and low. Perhaps I will adapt them to the next year's show. With the tree fully dressed in its tinsel and glow, it was time to return to the blanket of snow. For the scene needed polish, a finish, a frame, those last little touches that tie up the game. First came the logo, a sign for the side, a banner announcing the Grinch-filled hillside. I painted the letters in bold cherry red, then blended green shading on Grinch as I spread. A holiday flourish, a bright little wink, a label that popped more than one might first think. Then back to the model, our grumble of green, who still needed footing within this white scene. I drilled through his feet with a careful slow turn. No cracks, no disasters, just patience to learn. A metal rod followed, glued firmly in place, to plant him securely on cliffside and base. Once mounted, he stood with that slouchy pose right, A thief on a mission through fresh winter night. But villains leave traces, no Grinch would deny. So footstep I pressed into snow drifting by. Small dents in the powder that mapped where he'd been. A trail up the hillside of mischief and green. But before the last look of this mountain of cheer, there's a group I must honor this time of the year. To my wonderful patrons, whose kindness I see, you help keeping the glue flowing smoothly for me. Your support is the sparkle, the glitter, the light that turns silly ideas into real crafted sight. So thank you, dear friends, your names glow in my heart. You make every build just a little more art. With texture completed and footprint aligned, the last of the details came into mind. The edges all tidy in deep inky black, a frame for the winter to hold the scene back. I painted each side till the borders were neat, a picture box finish from corner to feet. And now, patient viewer, it's finally time to show you this diorama born out of rhyme. A mountain of mischief, a tree bent with glee, and a Grinch who is climbing home stealthily. So feast your eyes now as the camera will glide through glitter and snow on this Grinchified ride. If this tale brought a grin to your face, and you like this small climb to a snow-covered place, then join me again for more builds full of cheer. Who knows what strange things I will be crafting next year? Leave thoughts in the comments, subscribe if you dare, and may all your projects be crafted with flair.